Today's guest is an actor, musician, Broadway star, and maybe best known for being an original member of Bravo Network's TV show Queer Eye for the Straight Guy. But today he is on the podcast because he is also an exotic pet keeper and enthusiast, and he shares his love and appreciation for these animals with his massive audience. So I want to welcome to the show today, Jay Rodriguez.
Hi, Richard.
Hey,
First of all,
thanks
for having me on. This is so surreal. You know, as you mentioned, I work in entertainment and I'm around a lot of celebrities all the time, but I feel like I'm talking to the king of tarantulas. I've been following your channel for a while now, and it really got me through the pandemic. And I discovered you because I have a lot of aquariums, and YouTube suggests other channels. At first, to be honest, I was really like, this guy is wild. You have a big personality. And so I was watching for your personality, but in the process, I started really becoming less afraid of the idea of tarantulas. Not that I wanted to keep them. And then over time, you know, you would use specific words like never threat posed at me, or rarely kicked hairs, or when you use the word defensive, I'm like, nope, that's not one for me. But anyway, I'm new to the hobby, but like many people who are new to the hobby, I did a ton of research before I was even comfortable, and started small and got to where I am today.
So when did it begin for you? You mentioned during the pandemic.
Kind of during the pandemic, I think what it was you know, I think a lot of us got really introspective about the things that matter to us during the pandemic, and we're determined to kind of live a more full life when we got the chance to. And for me, that meant kind of tackling a lot of the things I was very fearful of, spiders and big bodies of water specifically.
Okay.
There's things that'll eat you in a pond. And so, you know, like I was always one of those guys that I liked exotic pets. I would like to see them. I didn't want them necessarily in my care. I have a dog and a cat and several aquariums, and that was enough. But then YouTube suggested channels like yours. And then I was watching because of the personalities, the people behind the care or husbandry. I found the world interesting. And fascinatingly enough, I also found my tribe. I found that a lot of the people that I was watching, whether it was the content creators or people on social media, a lot of their personality really fit with mine. And then I realized, oh, it's not them. I'm one of them. It's us. And so for me, I think I did a good amount of research of what tarantulas were. And I always have been a fan of an underdog. If you were misunderstood, come hang with me. I generally don't run in the popular cliques. I sort of never have. Fame is occasionally an odd byproduct of what I do, but it isn't always aligned with every single project I have. So really, you know, the majority of people that I know and or I'm very close to are the wacky folks who live somewhere outside the lines of the norm. And I think when you mention to someone that you keep tarantulas, they often are assuming one, and probably in some heavily guarded, locked up cage. That is not the case for me, but I started small during the pandemic, and that kind of expanded my curiosity.
So what was the first tarantula that you have or that you received?
So this is horrible, but I did one of those things where I really love jumping spiders. So this shirt is from Tiana, the bug lady from TikTok, to over jumping spiders. And so I started with jumping spiders, kind of very docile. You know, there's cartoons of jumpers. Are you laughing? I'm going to kill you. So I started with jumping spiders, but then when I went to get another, they had very small pink toad. And I was like, that's not even really a tarantula. Cool. I can handle that. It's the size of a nickel. I'll be good. And every day I'd make sure it was still in its enclosure. And I had that pink toad for about 2 months, and then it died. And I was so frustrated. And then I went back and told them, and they're like, well, you know, slings can be really fragile. And so, you know, that's why it was $15. And so maybe you want to might try your hand at something larger. And I was like, absolutely not. But I was so curious. And because of you, I started like nightly, routinely, and in a ritualistic fashion, opening up Micro Wilderness's website and just looking at it and looking for keywords like New World, like you know, does very often does not act in a defensive way or whatever. And so low venom potency, like there was key things. And then of course, you know, I'd sneak in there pretty. And those were my tenants. But then also there was a lot of things where that I would then start there that immediately YouTube what you had to say about that specific species. And that's how I ended up with the collection I have today. But the first one, how it really happened was I was shooting Fantasy Island, which is a series on Fox, and it'll be on Fox this fall, coming back for season 2. And my character, I have this guest star role, also conquering his fears, and has a scene with a tarantula. And it was a Brachypelma homori and large female. I didn't know, but I remember having dinner with the director the night before because we shot in Puerto Rico. And I was like, was it black and orange? I'm like trying to get it out of him what kind of spider it is because I'm trying to mentally brace myself. And he's like, yeah, it was. I'm like, I guarantee you, because in one of your videos, you mentioned that this spider is heavily used in TV and film. So I was like, of course it'll be that spider. I get to set, it is that spider. It's a large female. The person who is the wrangler does not speak English. And the pet person who's on set for the ASPCA or whatever, who's meant to keep the pet or the animal safe, was terrified of tarantulas. So I'm stuck there like, are we doing rehearsal? Like, am I going to get to, like, is someone going to train me in this? Thank God I had watched several videos about how to handle a tarantula if you have to for a rehouse, or if it gets out during a rehouse, you could cup it, but also offering your hand, testing on the back legs first, its temperament, gently with a paintbrush, and then offering it, my hand. Now this particular tarantula has probably more TV credits than I do, so she was fine. She was literally in her trailer smoking a cigarette with one of her legs, but literally I offered my hand, and in the first take, just heart racing, because the scene is partially about that, but then it goes on to something entirely different. So you're having a conversation and having to be effortless with this live animal that you've never met. And so I offer it my hand and tap it, and it gently got on my hand. And I have this whole scene where I'm just bridging it over a table. And it was a dream. We shot it probably like 20 times. And then immediately I'm like, that's the first one I'm going to get. That's the first one. How am I going to get it? Am I going to go to micro wilderness? What am I doing? Well, I've been talking about the species so much. Facebook suggested a post of someone rehousing one.
Nice.
It was in a bad setup. They had gotten one of those creatures tanks from, a chain pet store, stuck the plant on the side. And of course the plant had fallen. And so the tarantula had nowhere to walk because it was just literally a plant, because they were scared of putting their hand in there. So I got this male Brachypelma homori from this woman, gave it in great enclosure, and was immediately obsessed. But then I only had one, and that doesn't seem fair. So then I called Nate at Micro Wilderness and I explained my issue that I was newbie. And so I got Lucifer, which is obviously this Grammostola pulchra behind me. I got a curly hair named Murray, Nicaraguan curly hair. And the last one I got was, I think, a Chaco Golden Knee. Yeah.
Nice.
Grammostola pulchra. Yeah. And so those were the kind of the ones I was starting. And you know how it goes. You have a good day, someone sneezes the wrong way, and all of a sudden you're back up on that Micro Wilderness website. Plus, Nate and Natasha became like friends, and I would send them pictures and videos of my tomfoolery, including making this enclosure that would make Liberace weep. It's just like I've literally become like the queer eye for the spider guy. And I think partially because I couldn't believe I was so comfortable having them in my care. And then when you do have them in your care, you observe their behaviors, and they don't seem, to be honest, the first little while when I would open to feed, they would just scurry. They would just get so afraid of me. And that made me feel bad, and now it's different, but that's kind of how it started. Yeah.
Nate's going to be so stoked that you've mentioned him so many times.
Oh my God. I loved it. I just saw him the other day because I picked up a really cool, unique spider from him. And it's just a Phonopelma species white that he had on his website. He had one, and I've been looking at this spider forever because it's like a white, it kind of looks like an Arizona blonde kind of, but white. And he had one on his site, and I've been just for weeks. That's the first one I wanted, and it finally became available. So I went and talked to him. So hey, Nate.
Nice. Yeah, he's a good guy. I like
Yeah.
Nate a lot.
Yeah. He's invited me
So
to go
you're
herping, so that might be the next thing, Richard. You might see me in the wilderness.
Yeah, me too. Maybe we could all do it together. I'll head out
Let's
to
do it.
LA and
Listen, I think you should. I love your YouTube channel, but I'm like, if you ever want to transition into television, let's have a conversation, because I just feel like one of the things I got from you as someone who was not into invertebrates was your charisma, your passion, but also your care for not just conservation, but educating the viewer so that these animals have the best shot of a good life, because these can easily become a novelty to someone or living art, and then the care and the husbandry kind of falls to the wayside. And so I think what you've done so beautifully is invite spiders into our homes in a non-threatening way, and I think we should bring that to the masses.
thank you. I appreciate that. I've actually talked to a couple casting directors from Fox. Like they'll contact me
Oh,
about every 6 months or so. There was some like weird pet games show they were wanting to do, and they're like, Sarah Silverman's going to host it, and you would be great. But then they want me to like show tarantulas doing tricks, and I'm like, tarantulas don't do tricks. Like,
yeah.
I can't train a tarantula.
It's gonna go fetch me a cricket, guys. It'll be right back. No, how I had this great idea about, like, doing basically makeovers for people with exotic pets and giving them an opportunity to go in and give the most unique and specific to them, their lifestyle, and the best needs for the animal makeover show, utilizing people who are specialists in their field, whether it's invertebrates or reptiles. I haven't seen anything like it, and it's partially about the makeover reel, but more importantly, it's really about the people who care for these animals. I've always found them to be really unique individuals that I think don't get the spotlight too often, and I'd love to tell their stories.
Nice. That's kind of a cool concept, like kind of Queer Eye for the straight guy, but then also like, do you ever watch that show Tanked, where those guys would go into like celebrities' homes? And
That's why I have 5 tanks, because of them.
yeah,
And
yeah,
they're all like, naturally planted, and I the organic subs. I have all the things, and I think I didn't see that anywhere. And I think understanding the hobby now more fully, the people who care for these animals also deserve to have the best available to them, and the hacks. I mean, I have 3 crested geckos, and I made them enclosures, like literally expandable foam, and did the silicone with the substrate and the cork hot. I mean, I built these with, bioactively. That's not something I thought I could do, but I learned how to do it, and they're thriving. And so, that show I think would be great. If you'd like to see that show, comment in the box below. We'll make it.
definitely. I think that would be awesome. I mean, I kind of started the same way you did. Like I had a fear of spiders, and I also have always kind of been drawn to the underdog. Like I think that's why I like tarantulas and scorpions and snakes so much, is because they're so feared and misunderstood. And for whatever reason, I was scared of them, but also kind of drawn to them. The more I learned about them, the more fascinated I became. And
tell me about Rosie, the college tarantula, the Chilean rose hair you had in college, because then after that video, I got 2. After that video. So listen, one was hilarious and wants to kill the water during water refills. And the other is just very chill, but they're so pretty. And you were playing with the spider a little bit more in college before you were, knew much about it. And I'm assuming that's not a species that you would handle. Not that you ever handled, but
I mean, at the time I handled her all the, like my roommate, we were polar opposites. I don't know if I mentioned this in the story we're talking about, but I worked at Hot Topic and he worked at Abercrombie and Fitch, and we were dorm roommates.
Opposite sides of the mall. You guys.
So we already had kind of a strained friendship or relationship, and we would battle for who, is a tiny little dorm room. We've got like those loft beds and a communal couch, and he wanted to bring his boyfriend over. I wanted to bring my girlfriend over. So we were always kind of like, who gets the room? And I got my first tarantula, kind of overcome my fears and stuff, but quickly realized if I had her out of her enclosure, especially when I was studying or something like that, just crawling around on me, he would walk in, see it, turn around and walk back. So sometimes I would do that just so I could have the room to study or something like that.
So he worked at Abercrombie and Fitch, and he's gay, so he's probably hot. Do we know where he is now? Because I'm very single.
I
I'm just
don't,
kidding.
but he was very attractive.
Oh, geez. And he's probably scared of spiders. Although maybe, honestly, I would love to hear his version of the story today, because I wonder if due to that exposure, if now he keeps like if he has had one.
Yeah,
Curious.
that's
Curious where that
I would
story
like to
went.
know that too. I'll have to look into that. See if I can find him on Facebook.
He probably watches your channel, because I guarantee you someone said, "Do you know Richard has a channel on YouTube and it's really popular?" Guarantee he's seen this channel.
That's possible. I've had some people from high school reach out to me that I haven't talked to for 20 odd years.
Yeah,
just like,
that's how it goes.
I forgot you even existed.
Remember, we used to hang out all the time. We were best friends. I'm like, I remember you being really mean to me.
So you started out with fish. Like, are you doing freshwater, saltwater, both?
Freshwater. Interestingly enough, I started out with, this is how it really went sideways. I got a TV, 1950s TV from a furniture store in New York that had been refurbished into an aquarium, and it was done by an artist. So a vintage TV that has an aquarium in it, and I had freshwater. Didn't really care, about what the vibe of that tank was. It was my tropical little dump tank. Didn't make sense. There was no rhyme or reason. It was just a cute little freshwater tank, nothing special, but the design was special. Then I got into betta fish, and I realized that I was keeping them incorrectly during the pandemic. Started YouTubing their care, only to discover that they needed, 5 gallons, or more. They need a heater, and that you could use organic substrate, and you could have a planted tank. And I started really learning. So then every little cube, no filter, no heater tank I had, which I think at the time was 4, got expanded into 5 to 8 gallon aquariums that were planted. That was all during the pandemic. That's how it started. And then I think the first jump into anything extra was the jumping spiders. And they were super easy and adorable and handleable if you're into that kind of thing. And I just really they have such big personalities. And then the pink toe, which I sadly killed. But I was also traveling. I was shooting this fall in New York, so I needed people, and it usually for about 2.5 weeks at a time before I get a break to come home. And so I found that slings and jumping spiders, people were fine to take care of. It was easy for them. Missed the enclosure for the jumping spiders. Put a cricket in twice a week. People were fine with that. The minute I stepped into tarantulas, that's a special kind of friend that's willing to do that. Listen, I wish I lived in the hills of the Appalachian Valley, because you'd be a great neighbor. I'm happy to come in and feed. I can do rehousings. I've learned it all.
Very cool. You're probably the first person that says they'd be happy to live in the foothills of the Appalachians.
I would volunteer gladly.
I mean, I love it here, but yeah, it's pretty. Yeah. I don't have any.
It was interesting when you share that. I wouldn't have guessed. I don't know why I thought of you as like, oh, he's probably like in like, I don't know, somewhere near like, Northern California. I don't know. I just kind of saw you as like, I don't know. That's the vibe I was getting.
Yeah, that happens a lot. Like sometimes I'll be talking to these people, and they're like, "Wait, you're where? You're in West Virginia."
Yeah.
Who's from West Virginia?
Yes, you have also in one of the earlier videos. I don't know I could be completely making this up, but as a Tarantula Collective T-shirt, and I thought it was in the Pride colors, but maybe it wasn't. Am I reading into that? Was there a design that was similar?
Probably, yeah. I've had a lot of different designs.
You had like something that looked a little rainbowy, and I read into it, and I was like, he's an ally. I'm on this channel.
Most definitely.
But I will say that one of the most fascinating things is once you share that you have a tarantula, you're shocked to find out how many other people have tarantulas. That they don't talk about it because either they are nervous about where they live and they don't want the people that live in their building to freak out about it. Or what I found out, someone I had, Deborah Wilson from Mad TV. She has like a bunch of tarantulas.
Really?
And Nate told me, and I was like, I've worked with her, and I can't think if she even told me that, but it tracks because she's a wacky individual, and I love her for that. But yeah.
Yeah, even around here, I'm always very hesitant to bring it up. People ask what I do for a living and stuff. I'm like, a film, like a videographer and photographer. Like, don't mention the tarantulas because that usually, I mean, sometimes I will, but a lot of times it kind of turns people off, or at least it steers the conversation into a direction I don't want to go, and have to
100%.
kind of like defend keeping tarantulas because they're like, oh, you should just kill it. I don't like
Kill it,
getting into those
or some of the
conversations.
some of the bigger ones were it needs so much more space, and I was like, mine are like this guy didn't leave his burrow. I mean, I'm shocked he's over here, but he's got a massive enclosure, and he stayed in his little burrow over there for like 2 months
Yeah.
when I first got him. And he sometimes ventures over here because there's a little bit of natural sunlight that comes over here, curtains closed. He'll hang out there in the morning, and then he's up back on the other side. But I think one of the things I really love about this hobby is the community that seems to be so supportive of each other. I mean, listen, you get online, you're going to get all kinds of haters anyway.
Yeah.
I think this is the closest I've ever felt to being a parent, because if you say the wrong thing online, I'm sure how mommies feel when they go and ask for support. Good Lord.
Yeah. That was actually kind of leads into one of the questions I was wanting to ask you. I mean, tarantulas seem, and I don't like, I'm not, I guess I'm kind of assuming I know a little bit about your lifestyle, but doing a lot of these like TV shows and movies and stuff like that, I'm sure you're in and out and sometimes gone for days or weeks at a time. So tarantulas seem like the type of pet that would be very conducive to that type of lifestyle because they
Little
don't
did I
require
know.
daily care.
I would have
But
had this hobby sooner then if I'd known.
Yeah. But what do like your friends and coworkers and stuff like that think about the fact that you keep tarantulas?
Fascinated, want to see all the pictures and videos. I found that when people come into the home, they start fearful, and then they're like, 9 times out of 10, they'll be like, oh, it's actually really cute. Is it weird that I'm saying it's cute? It's always in that order. And then the more friends that I've had over who've gotten used to the idea, then I have them in my office, and my rule of thumb is if it doesn't fit on the 2 shelving units, like it can't come in the house. So I'm almost at capacity, but thank God for stackable ones. But yeah, thanks Tarantula Collective and turning me on to Tarantula Cribs. That was the helpful tip. But no, I think people really kind of at first are a little surprised. But when I posted a picture the other day, I'd gotten an Arizona blonde off Nate, and I posted a video or something, and people were like, the DMs were, nope, never, and I was like, it's actually mine. They're like, really? And they get curious. So like, I think it sparks curiosity. I think specifically because they're under my care, I just don't seem like the kind of person who would care for something so dangerous. And I think that if they're like, well, if he can do it, there's got to be something that I'm missing.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So you share the fact that you keep tarantulas and stuff like that with a lot of your fans and followers?
Yeah,
I kind of keep it under wraps.
I've been slow to do it because I was a little nervous about like, what people might think. So I've been like doing it in little doses. I've got a Patreon that just basically follows the behind the scenes of my life. It's like a diary. It's on set stuff. And so they are now just getting into, the kind of the tarantula thing. I've kind of teased it. We're doing the crested geckos this week and then tarantulas next week. And I think I'm going to start by genus because I think it'll be easier. And, I kind of just basically have gotten the privilege of having people who follow me there, who are genuinely interested in, basically what happened was, Richard, during the pandemic, I was like, I'm unemployed. I don't know what to do. I'm going to start just, doing free shows on Facebook and Instagram. And I think it really humbled a lot of us gig workers who jump from job to job, who don't have a regular 9 to 5. And, I got to do what I would do live in a cabaret space, and I would do these concerts, but streaming. And then I developed this community. They call themselves the Jaybirds. And I love that because that's my on-set nickname. Like the crew's always like, Jaybird, we need you on set, which I don't know if that started. I don't know how they all know to call me that, but like when I get on set, I don't tell anybody that. And that's just what comes out of it. But then they were like, you should do a Patreon or something. And I was really opposed to the idea. I think I was so used to all the production around me and these big shiny productions that paring it down and shooting things with a Canon and learning how to work iMovie or whatever it was for the first time was scary. And also I realized that not everyone wants to find out about my work or my life, and I have to include other things of interest like my animals, or I do a segment called Jay Tries, where basically it's me trying new things And I introduced Jay Try's Tarantulas. It was the first time they saw it, and I kind of softly talked about it, showed some pictures, and now we're going to go into the more like explaining and then probably feeding videos. But yeah, I think there was a genuine curiosity. I'm thankful that people that follow me are genuinely just like, I don't know, I think he's cool and I'm down to support. But I'm really trying to up my game. I mean, your production value, how did that start for you? Because what you shoot is television quality.
Well, thanks. I mean, I started out with a cell phone. Like I never held a camera until I had been making videos for a few months. And a friend of mine for Christmas, he was a friend, but also my boss. So it was like a Christmas present / Christmas bonus. It's like, here's a camera. And, it is a little outdated, but it worked for what I needed. So I just started learning, learning all about aperture and focusing and ISO and all that fun stuff. And, so the channel, if you go back to my first video and watch it, you can see the progression of me learning how to use a camera and how to edit and stuff like that.
The progression of the laugh, it's the progression of the laugh for me at the end. It is evolved. It is evolved, sometimes cheerful, sometimes sinister. I love it.
Yeah.
You can't ever not do it, because then I'm like, what happened? Did I miss it? So,
yeah. If I ever don't do it, people always leave a comment. And I've got a granddaughter now, which is kind of crazy, but she's 3 and she likes to watch.
Granddaughter, I feel like I'm older than you. I'm in my 40s. Are you just?
I just
really
turned 40.
Oh, okay. Got it.
And I also have always been attracted to older women, so I ended up marrying someone that was 5 years older than me, and she had a kid when she was young, like when she was 20. And then her daughter had a kid when she was 20. So technically, I'm like, kind of like a step grandfather, I guess would be a more accurate way. But
same thing.
She loves watching like the YouTube videos, at least the ones that I do, and she likes Tarantula Cat too.
And does she like to? I mean, how did that's a really interesting point, because I believe that we impose our fears on children based on our reaction to it. So was your daughter always comfortable with exotic pets, and did that transfer to your granddaughter?
I think Maggie never really had much exposure to it, but she was always kind of alternative lifestyle. So, she was similar to what we discussed earlier. She really liked underground or, the underdogs or things that society kind of didn't like. Mm-hmm. So when Kate and I got married or even started dating, I had tarantulas and stuff like that. She thought it was cool, but she wasn't really exposed to it. And when she got her first apartment, I sent her over there. Like my housewarming gift was a pink toe tarantula. I gave her like the enclosure and, all that stuff. So she had in her living room, was proudly displaying it. But Rosie my granddaughter, from the time she was born, she was in jumpers and stuff like that with tarantulas and spiders on them. So she grew up around it, she's here all the time. So, and she just loved, she calls them piters, but like she'll go to daycare and talk about spiders to the daycare workers, which they always find funny. But so I tried to expose her to tarantulas and snakes and geckos and stuff like that, like whatever I have down here, so that she doesn't grow up afraid of these things. And,
the world is like reopening, and after being so isolated, I feel like I'm finally ready to start dating. But I also now feel like, how do I bring this up? Like, I don't want to seem like the crazy spider person, but also if things go well and you decide to cohabitate with someone, I have an office animal room that has to stay intact. That's going to be a part of my life forever. I see that. And so, and if I do travel, I don't want to date someone who's going to be terrified of them. And so I was actually, interestingly enough, I saw a bunch of posts. I think it was on some social, and they were talking about that can sometimes be an issue when you're dating someone and introducing the concept of, by the way, I keep tarantulas. You what?
Yeah. That's always a tough area to navigate. I did it probably the most incorrect way. Like, we started dating and it was like I had a tarantula, or actually, I told her that I kept tarantulas. So she knew that I had an interest in them, and I had a few. We moved in, and, once we got our house, it was kind of an explosion. Like I just slowly started to add more and more until she was like, whoa, there's like 50 tarantulas down here now. And I just didn't tell her most of the time. It was like, I'd order, get 10 in, set them up, not mention it. And if she didn't come into the room, she wouldn't know. which I thought was good until like, a couple months go by, or I guess it was like a year almost. She was like, wait a minute, this is a lot more than I thought you had. I probably should have been coming in this room more often.
The other thing too is, I often just also am very mindful of like how the misconceptions, one, it's going to escape. And while I'm sure some people have had that experience, I'm so hyper vigilant about the enclosures and making sure they're safely secure before I even turn my back, and because I don't want that experience, not just for the, for myself or me being uncomfortable, but honestly for the safety of the spider. The spider is like, 3 feet off the ground, and he's a little pudgy. So if he falls, not going to be a good look. I mean, granted, this is like, there's a little, latch here, lock thing, but all my enclosures, I'm really mindful of that and quite vigilant. And even like I say, when I leave the apartment, I say goodbye to the dog and the cat, but now I do a little lap in the animal room, make sure all the enclosures are done. And the other thing too is, reminding people that nothing in my care is super speedy and that nothing in my care is particularly defensive. And I think people see that as well. Because I wouldn't want to like shut people off from my life or a game night or something because there's a tarantula in the dining room.
Yeah, I understand. That's why I feel like I'm lucky because I have a basement, so I'm able to keep them all down here, and
I wish.
Nobody sees it unless I bring them down here. It's not like they can hear them or smell them or anything like that. So
yeah,
people will come over and have dinner and stuff like that and just be completely unaware of what's underneath their feet.
So brilliant.
Yeah,
I love it. When did you start expanding the aesthetic part of it? Because looking at your room, it's beautifully lit. I tried to get the puck lighting and the batteries always run out. So I'm trying to figure out lighting for when I shoot, because I don't, it's just ambient lighting during the day and then obviously night. When did that shift for you when you went from just keeping them to like, I think I'm going to go ahead and pretty this room up because I love the way it reads on camera?
Yeah. Well, it was kind of the deal that I had with my wife. It was like, she's like, you can keep a lot of tarantulas. Like, I'll be cool with it as long as it always looks, aesthetically pleasing, as long as it's pretty. She didn't want me to just have in stack. Like, you see some people, because there's two different types of keepers. There are people that like appreciate the beauty of the tarantulas and keeping like a wide variety of species. And then you have people that are more collecting them, they're checking off boxes. Like, they just want one of each species, and they'll be in like, and I'm not knocking those people or anything like that, but they just kind of keep them in like sterilite plastic tubs and all their basic needs are met, but you kind of got to pull it out and open it up to look at them. Like, she didn't want that, it's kind of the same with snakes. Like, as long as they're in a nice, aesthetically natural looking enclosure, that's cool. But, she didn't want racks, like rack systems with a bunch of tubs with different snakes.
That's my feeling. That I can't do anything other than the acrylic and making sure it looks naturalistic. Here's the kind of, we would be in my other room, but this is my office for the viewer, but this is what it looks like. I kind of, it says Jay's World because that's where I usually do a lot of my filming. But as you can see, everybody's in their own little enclosure and it's neatly done, kind of softly modeled after what I've seen from a lot of YouTubers, including yourself. I want to just get the strip lighting situation done better.
Yeah.
So I have to figure that part out because I'd love for it to be able to like light up like blue if I'm shooting for an hour and then I can shut it off. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, there's a lot of good LED strip lights. The puck lights I use are all. I don't use any of the nice. Yeah, those work. Those work really well.
Which puck lights do you use? Because you mentioned them in a video. I ran and bought them, and I think I got the wrong ones.
Yeah, most of them that you find, especially like at hardware stores, are all battery operated, and I hate those. But the ones I get plug into the wall, and they're just like some cheap Chinese knockoff. I think it's called Airboo or something like that. I've got them on my Amazon store. Like, I have a little Amazon storefront.
Order at the end of this call.
Yeah, they're pretty handy, and they come in packs of like 4, 6, 8, or 12, and you can string them all together. So it's just you just plug in one plug and. Yeah,
I got the puck ones. I got rechargeable battery, and I'd put it on, and then it would literally start flickering and then die. And I was like, great.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right. So got it. I will go to your Amazon store.
So yeah, that's I initially had everything nicely displayed just to kind of keep the relationship in good terms, I guess. And then once I started like making YouTube videos, I started getting even more critical and wanting to add different lightings, like the red lights and the blue lights and stuff like that. And that was mainly just copying other YouTubers. Because it was seemed to me like one of the reasons I wanted to start a channel is because I really liked, like Peter McKinnon and Casey Neistat and a lot of these big YouTubers. And then, you go watch Tarantula content, and no one was really doing anything like that. No one was really spending a lot of time on production quality and audio and the visuals and stuff. And I was like, I really like these YouTubers, and I want to see somebody in the tarantula space do something like that. And it was like, maybe I should just do that if no one else is going to do it. So that's kind of like what led me in that direction.
I think it's so smart because you really do fill a niche. I mean, listen, great content is great content without all the bells and whistles, but there's something so pleasurable about watching your channel because of how shiny it is. And then also you give such thorough information, even to do this interview. The email you send to your guests is so thorough. You didn't leave a thing out. I was like, typical Richard. It was like a care sheet for how to do a podcast. It was great, but I was like, I could see that that's how your brain works. You didn't just send a link today. You said everything from sound to lighting to camera to everything. And that is really great because it shows. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Yeah. And there's a lot of great content out there. But it's kind of low quality, but the information is really good. Right. And it's something that you would really only enjoy watching if you already kept tarantulas and you wanted to learn more about them. Maybe not even watch, but you wouldn't even see it, because YouTube's not going to be recommending it because it's not getting a whole lot of clicks and all that kind of stuff. So I wanted to more than just make content for people that already keep tarantulas. I wanted to try and attract people to the hobby. So I was studying a lot about how to get my videos recommended to people that aren't already kind of in the niche. And hopefully, like I was talking to somebody once, I was like, I focus, like I'm more of a trying to make car commercials, than teach people how to rebuild an engine. Like I cover the basics and stuff like that, get you everything you need to know, but I try to make it look as attractive as possible so that you'll be interested in keeping tarantulas. And, that's my goal, at least, to try and broaden the hobby and get more people interested in it.
Yeah, you certainly did that for me.
I mean, you're out in California. I mean, I'm assuming you're like in the Los Angeles area.
Yep.
So there's tarantulas native. Yeah, I mean, maybe not in LA, but in that area. Are there a lot of people out in Hollywood that... I feel like they are readily available in pet stores. I start seeing them more frequently, and then they're not there anymore. So I'm assuming people are buying them. And Nate certainly does. The Micro Wilderness People is my only kind of point person in LA that I know. But a lot of people have them and just don't really like publicize that they do. But I started following like every Instagram or account I could follow just to kind of see who else is out there who does have them, but we do have, I think the Johnny Cash, I think that's just a common name for, we've got the California Ebony. I mean, there's definitely tarantulas that you can find if you go to someone's house and you're in the right part of town. I wouldn't say necessarily like super in the city part, but in the more, rural area, I shouldn't say rural, the more like, in the suburbs. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think you're referring to the Aphonopelma Johnny Cashy.
That's the one.
Yeah, that's the Johnny Cash tarantula. I've got a little baby sling, so in about 10 years, I'll be able to know what that one looks like.
A spider, then, yeah, exactly. That's exactly what. There's some of the. I go to this pet store that's about 30 minutes away, so it's kind of a good deterrent because they always have something end up when I go to get feeders. That's that joke that people see online. I went to get feeders, and they show you like the 4 spiders they bought. That's real. That's real. Mm-hmm. That happens. I've fallen victim to it. It happened yesterday. I think I got a Brachypelma amelia yesterday, and I was like, didn't need it, but I had an extra enclosure. Yeah. And I remember in one of your videos, you said, "Are you even I'm paraphrasing, but you were something like every good keeper has extra enclosures hanging around just in case." And I was like, just in case of what? Yesterday. So it worked out, but I went there and. They have the Johnny Cashy, and I had to look it up because I had never really heard about it before. But I figured, they're local. I'm sure I'll stumble across one in my journeys, and I could just take a picture and be satiated.
Yeah. And I think they're all black, very black looking Aphonopelma. So I'm really excited to see it grow.
I've already got Lucifer. I'm good.
Yeah, I get talking to Tarantula Cat like almost on a daily basis, and she'll mention she's heading to the pet store, and I tease her. I'm like, what are you going to get?" Like, I know you're coming back with a tarantula or a frog or something.
I love her, and I have her little Wednesday spider that she had for sale.
Nice.
I'm upset. She was one of the ones I followed in originally because I could not believe this woman kept spiders in her bedroom. When she said that, I was like, "What in her?" Richard puts it in the bed. How's she gonna sleep? And then does she hear? Like, my brain could not compute that was even happening, and now I just like so. I think one of the things that, I always say this as an actor, like I can go into a room with guys who are more built, more credits, whatever. People are attracted to your essence, to kind of the uniqueness that makes you you. So when you were growing up and everyone always told you be yourself, the reason for that is because your authenticity and you're not conforming and just being a prototype of everyone else is what makes you interesting, is what makes you memorable and makes people want to be around you. And so I found Kat so interesting that I just started following her. And I think I was very surprised that this cute little woman was like doing all this kind of dangerous tarantula stuff in my mind at the time, and I couldn't understand it, but I learned how to, build an enclosure and the parameters for substrate. I mean, I probably would have been one of those people with like an inch of substrate had I not known, and so I think, I'm like, I wish y'all lived closer. I'd be able to spider sit whenever you need.
Yeah, that would be very cool. Interesting is a good way to describe her. I like that term.
Yes. Well, if you guys you guys should figure out a way. I mean, I'm hoping that there's some kind of reptile show that has invertebrates that has you in California, because if either one of you end up doing something here, I'm like, we need to do something.
Definitely. I'm sure that will happen sooner than later. I was actually in St. Louis, where she is, maybe 6 months ago or something. Who knows? With COVID, my time frames are all messed up. But within the past year, I was in St. Louis for the weekend for that show. And she invited me over to her apartment so I could check out her turtles and her snakes and all that kind of stuff, kind of get, and I was amazed just, because you walk into her bedroom, there's a bed in the middle, and then you're just surrounded with 3 walls, just, with tarantulas and snakes and frogs. And I'm like talking to her husband, like, where's your stuff? Like, where do you keep your clothes and, your possessions? Because all I see is animals.
He's in some videos, and I always want to know the spouse's point of view of the experience. I don't think we've ever seen your wife. I could be wrong. Maybe I missed that video, but I would be so curious about how they navigate, being around it, and were they always admirers of spiders, and what's the love for spiders now? I'm curious about it, but I think one of the things that really tickles me the most is the bedroom, the fact that it was in the bedroom. And, she doesn't ever do a wide shot. So sometimes it's a new wall you're seeing and you're like, where's this? There's more on that wall. I mean, I really am just trying to keep it on one wall for now and in a separate room in an office. I mean, also, like you said earlier, I have some slings. So, they're small. I mean, I have some that look like spiders and some that look like a jelly bean, so.
Yeah, that's one thing I always try to tell new keepers is be careful when you're getting spiderlings, because it's really easy to get 20 or 30 of them, within the first 6 months, and you're not really thinking about the size of the enclosure they're going to need in a few years, and then all of a sudden you've got 35-gallon enclosures. Like, where are you going to put them?
Yeah,
so,
that's what happened. I had to map out what I had, and if I go with that's another good question too. I feel like sometimes when I order something off Tarantula Cribs, but then we talk about gallons, I don't think they list gallons. So I'm like, is a large a 2.5 or a 5 gallon? And do they have an extra large? And what, I'm still wrapping my brain around. Thank God nothing I have, I don't think is full grown. The one I think is the Aphonopelma species white is in an extra large herb cult. So I know that's enclosure is sizable, but I had to mentally think, I have 2 slings, and I was like, I can't have any more. Although, Richard, what the hell is a sling? You say it all the time. Does it mean under an inch, 2 inches? Where are we going with this? I know if it's a dwarf, it's different. I get it. So don't get out of it saying that.
That's a tough one. I get that a lot. Like, what is a spiderling? Yeah. And, it depends on this. You can't really measure it by the size, because
What percentage?
it's more like how many times have they molted, like that's
Oh,
kind of by what I go, maybe after like 5 or 6, 7 instar,
well, what if
they
you don't
molt
know?
so
What
many
if you get
times.
it and you're like, I don't know
But
how many
that's
times I'm
also,
old.
yeah, that's usually what people say when I say that. So
I
the
have
way I
questions.
kind of differentiate it is spiderlings kind of look like normal like house spiders. They're kind of waxy, not a
Hmm.
lot of hair on them, not a lot of color. They're like gray, brown,
Yeah,
black, stuff like that. Those I consider spiderlings. Juveniles are when they start having some color show up, a lot of hair. They're starting to look a lot more like the adults would.
sure.
But that doesn't even work with, especially with Caribena species. The
Yeah.
spiderlings are blue, and then they could be a juvenile size and still kind of have that blue. But if you had them as a spiderling, you can definitely see a difference between what they look like initially to what they look like now. And then when they kind of get to that bigger juvenile subadult space kind of phase, they're starting to show a little bit more of the adult colors. So
Right.
that's kind of how I try to explain it. Like you got adults, and then you've got the smaller. They look just like an adult, just smaller than I say. Those are subadults, and then they in between that and the grayish brown color, which is a spiderling. I kind of refer
Yeah.
to those as juveniles.
Yeah, my
Because
spiderlings that are what you're describing, I feed twice a week and
Mhm.
pre-killed like pinheads usually.
Yeah,
I can't do a mealworm. I can't do a mealworm because
really.
they will burrow, and then
Hmm.
a little while later there's a freaking beetle in the enclosure, and then I'm
Oh,
trying to get the beetle while the tarantula's like, "What are you doing?" You know.
yeah.
So
And
I've
those
like,
beetles smell so bad. Have you had that? Have you had that
no,
luxury
but
yet? Oh,
something to
okay.
look forward to. I have got one
Yeah,
active in my pink toe enclosure, and I'm like
they're
trying
kind of
daily to get them.
like stink bugs almost is a very similar smell to that. Like, I mean, they
Right.
don't like emanate it, but if you pick them up and it gets on your hands, then you're scrubbing that to get that smell off. It's very chemical, unpleasant
Okay.
smells. So yeah, I don't
Yeah.
like doing mealworms for that purpose. That's why when I feed mealworms, I'm either feeding it to a tarantula. It's like builds a lot of webbing, so I can put it
Yeah.
right on its web, or like
Perfect.
tongue feed it. Or
Yeah.
just, if you just smash the head of the mealworm a little bit, that'll keep it from burrowing. But then
Right, right.
sometimes they don't move around a lot. So yeah,
Yeah.
mealworms aren't the best. I mainly feed those to my geckos and things like that. But yeah,
Yeah.
Tarantula
How's the
Cat's gonna be
crest?
very excited you mentioned her, by
Oh
the
my God,
way.
I love her. I mean,
She is a
look,
fan
I'm
of you.
obsessed. I think I honestly, I was like, these people in the tarantula community need their own series. It's fascinating. And I think what's interesting about it is everyone is always so curious, but we are so, I think, as a culture, kind of like a little nervous to ask about things we don't know about. So I think if
Yeah.
someone keeps tarantulas and you find out, usually the conversation is very superficial. In terms of like, well, why? Like
Hmm.
that's one of the key ones. And then it's such a longer conversation, but I think it's really cool because she's just got a great personality, and you just feel like she's your friend. I mean, I think we all think that you guys are our friends, you know.
It's funny you say that because she and I started out not friends. Like just for whatever reason, there was like some two different factions kind of in the tarantula hobby many years
Okay.
ago. So, and it was like I was kind of on one side, she was on the other, and we just assumed that we didn't like each other for a few years. Like we didn't say anything bad about each other, but we
Yeah,
didn't talk.
sure.
And I was kind of like, oh, she's with those people, and they don't like us, so I assume she doesn't like me.
And now
I
she's
don't
blowing
even,
you up every single day texting.
I don't remember what happened, but I think I had her blocked on Twitter or something like that because I didn't want to see what she was posting about, like some random stuff. And she sent me an email. I was like, "Why did you block me on Twitter?" And I'm like,
She thinks
"How
she's
did you
younger
even
than
know?"
you. I think she's younger than you too. So she's a social
Yeah,
media generation. That is like, you and I are around the same age. In our generation, we don't really think about stuff like that. But that
yeah,
is, yeah,
yeah. She
that
let
is a
me
thing.
know. I was like, I
But
didn't
I
mean to
I get
offend
that.
you.
I get that
I
because
just,
you could have muted her so you didn't have to see it, but you thought block, which sent a
yeah,
signal to her that you didn't intend on. I get that. That makes sense.
yeah. But it's good. Initially, I mean, overall, I'm glad that happened because
Yeah.
she sent me that email and we started talking and realized pretty quickly, yeah, that beef is something that was made up by other people. We actually have no issues and became friends. I don't even know if this is the right word. It's more like brother and sister. Like we spend more
Mhm.
time giving each other a hard time and stuff like that. But we support each other as well. She's a great person. I definitely enjoy talking to her.
And with
And
that,
then,
in her honor, today I'm going to feed the bearded dragon some gummy worms. I know she gets a lot of trouble for saying gummy worms instead of hornworms, but in her honor today, Brooklyn will have gummy worms.
Awesome. I'm sure she will definitely appreciate that.
Yeah.
So you said you also have crested geckos?
So yeah, so I have 3. I know you just got into, I don't know if you just got into, I know you just got some that you shared with us, but yeah, I actually Natasha from Micro Wilderness, I went to pick up a spider and she was like, "Oh, let me show you some of the crested geckos that I have." And I was like, "Oh, I didn't know that you guys did reptiles." And she was like, "Yeah, that's actually really my passion, and the spiders are more Nate's thing." And then you start handling one, and then you're like, "Well." And I had already been watching like Wiccan's Wicked Reptiles, and so I kind of knew, a little bit about him because Adam had covered it. And so then I literally went to the pet store, got a paludarium, built an organic, natural, bioactive enclosure, and kind of oddly, it's weird when you watch YouTube for a long time, you know the do's and don'ts like you've studied the class. And and then I was just shocked that it actually worked out the way they said it would. Like if you follow someone's instructions and then it works out, it's like you're baking a cake and you follow it, you're like, oh, it tastes just like I think it should. That's kind of how it happened. So I got one, and then I went to get feeders, and there was a female that was bigger than the baby I had, and I was like, oh, then it'll be like I have one because my baby's like super squirmy and doesn't want to really be held. So then I got 2, and then the third was because it was just pretty. And so I think that's it for now. But I think that they are in the process of they have eggs or they're probably breeding very unique. I don't want to give too much away, but they just shared some of their breeding plans, and they're exciting. Okay. So by the end of the year, they say I will definitely have another one of their geckos because they're going to be leaning into that. So I'm going to purchase one of the more unique colorations, and then I'll have an even number because 3 is weird. 3 is weird. Okay. So I'm telling myself
that's a dangerous trap to fall into.
Oh God, I know.
I gotta have an even number. It's gotta end in 0, and then before you know it, you just keep adding and adding.
I know. Yeah, but I will tell you, it's an interesting. Now you have me thinking though. Now I want to buy because I was like, okay, I want to buy a home in the next 2 years. So now it's something I'm thinking about. It's like, okay, where would optimal conditions be? If I'm looking at houses, because I don't think I want an apartment because I don't want neighbors. Like I want neighbors across the way.
Right. Yeah. And we've actually have been talking about selling this house and buying another house. And that was something that when we were having that discussion was animal room was a key, component of what we would be looking for in a new house. Like, somewhere where I could do this kind of work and not be bothering the family, because sometimes 100%. When you're recording and stuff like that, like it's got to be quiet. You don't want people doing construction next door like you're dealing with, or
I'm dealing with. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but it was loud earlier, and I was going to shoot this from my studio, which is where I do, because as actors now, I don't know if you know this, we don't audition in person anymore. We have to literally tape ourselves and then send it to our agent, who sends it to casting. That's how it works now. Wow. And I think they're just going to keep it like that because it's easier for them, and also as an actor, like, I can do it as many times as I want till I like it. But if I go in and you're the casting director, Richard, and we're having a cute kiki and you're making me laugh, and then I have to he's like, okay, let's do the scene. And it's a freaking dramatic scene. I'm not in the right headspace, and I got to turn that on, which is fine, part of the gig. But sometimes you leave feeling like, oh man, I wish I hadn't talked so much in the beginning. Whatever it is, this is different. So I have a whole room for that, and it's super simple to assemble. But I'll send you some footage of what the office looks like at night, because I kind of low key modeled it. It's like the gay version of what you got going on. I love the colorful lights, and but I want it to be kind of, I'm a big fan of the Golden Girls, so I got some like palm tree wallpaper, and I just made the room like my dream room. I had a roommate for a number of years during the pandemic, and then when he moved out, I knew immediately that room was going to be an animal room. I knew what it was going to look like, and it's come together really well. But it also helps me organize where everything needs to be. I'm sure a lot of keepers can relate to this. You have so much stuff, and you're looking for that one thing. So now everything is neatly labeled. You were right, the label maker. You said if you're new to the hobby, get a label maker. That was so helpful. And I do the scientific name, the common name, and then the name I gave it. because when I've traveled, I found that people, I have the same 3 people that are just like, anytime you're gone, please let me take care of your pets. And it's good. The only thing I board is like I have a dog and a cat. They could just go to friends' houses, and a bearded dragon that a friend has bearded dragons in her care, and she has like literally like a visitor tank, and he stays with her. And because I feel like the Cresties will be fine. Like they get misted. They have a misting system, and they get fed. They know, my friends know what to feed them, so that's okay. And with the tarantulas, it's like, they know to feed, and if it's not eaten, take it out 24 hours later. So it's pretty easy.
Yeah. When you mentioned Adam Wickens and Wickens Wicked Reptile, and that's pretty much who turned me on to crested geckos. Like I had leopard geckos and stuff like that, but I did a collab with him, and he was like, "You should definitely get one." And I was like, "I really should." And then I just because of COVID and other stuff, I just never had the opportunity. And then,
so how's it going?
So far, so good. They remind me a lot of tarantulas. I mean, a little bit more maintenance, but they're kind of like the tarantula version of tarantula version of a reptile, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Don't have a lot of like extreme requirements compared to other. Like I've got a day gecko, and she's a little more high maintenance, and a red-eyed tree frog, and you got to really watch their temperatures and the humidity and stuff like that. Where crested geckos seem to be a lot more forgiving, which I definitely appreciate.
Yes, 100%. And I had the thing happen where I made the mistake of buying an adult female jumping spider recently. Why I would do that? Because I had adult males, and I didn't even think to ask, had she been paired? Was she wild caught? Was she? So I've got little pepper flakes in a white little cotton ball forming. But thank God Natasha said she'd help me figure it out. But I've been watching a lot of videos about it, but it's my first like egg sac, and I was like, oh God.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what do you do with like, the offspring? I'm like, I guess I'll just get put on Craigslist. That feels weird too.
Yeah. Tarantula Cat has a few videos where she had some jumping spiders. Some she intentionally bred, some just produced an egg sac. I love all spiders really, but the true spiders, especially, and even like jumping spiders and stuff like that, I don't know. I have mixed emotions about keeping them because their lifespan is so short.
That's what everyone keeps saying.
You see tarantulas that live 20 years, and sometimes you buy a true spider and it costs $85 or $100, and you drop that, but then it's also with the knowledge that this is not going to live more than a year because it's already an adult, and that kind of sucks. But the first jumping spider I ever got, I was keeping it where I worked because I was working at this office, and sometimes I would keep the spiderlings on my desk, and then when they started getting larger, bring them home. And there was a moment I just didn't have any spiders there, and my friend, the guy that owned the business, was like, we should get some spiders just for the office, and he wanted a jumping spider, so I got one, and like a week after we got it, it laid an egg sac, and I was like, I'm sure it's not gonna do anything, and just kind of like let it alone. And then we came into work one day, and not only had it hatched, but the little spiderlings had crawled through the vent holes and were all over the office. And we're like, well, now we just have free range jumping spiders in here.
That's right. It's organic. Well, listen, we have them like local there. I found one on my bed like a year ago. On my pillow, and I knew exactly what it was because of the tarantula cat. And so then literally I started researching him, and that's kind of because I was like, well, I'm gonna have to cohabitate with them anyway. Now I have them, the enclosures in a butterfly little netted kind of thing, so if the babies start going through the vents, they'll be in there. But yeah, it's gonna be a project for me. I didn't intend on it, and I'm hoping Loving Homes will take them off my hands. But I also am like, how does one even how do I even give these away? Because I'm not a breeder. People would know to me, be like, hey, can I get a jumping spider off you?
But a breeder? Just hit up Nate. Be like, hey, can you take these for me?
Can you take 462? No, that's not going to be that many.
I mean, he's got the infrastructure all set up. He could get him out to some Loving Homes pretty quickly.
He bred a whole bunch of spiders, and I think he's got like 200,000 or some odd baby spiders that he's going to have to deal with.
Yeah,
That's
he
wild.
and I have actually been talking. We're doing I do a fundraiser for Harmony House, which is like a child advocacy center. So we're going to do a fundraiser once a lot of those spiderlings are ready to find new homes. So trying to raise some additional funds for them this summer, which will be really cool.
Anything I can do to help. I love the tour of the facility and its mission. So let me know. I'm down to help in any way I can.
Yeah, definitely. I think they would really appreciate that. They're good people. Like sometimes they can be a little shady, helping out nonprofit organizations because you don't really know where the money's getting spent and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But I'm in a unique position where I know some of these people personally over the years working with them, and I can see firsthand the work that they're doing and the direct impact it has on kids and the community in general. And it's just a really good cause. So I'm
I
always
love that.
excited to help those guys out.
I love it.
But yeah, so Nate could definitely help you out. He's a good dude. I
Yes,
said that already, but it's
well,
worth
honestly,
repeating.
listen, at this point, people are going to think that I'm trying to have a relationship with Nate and Natasha. I am very single. I just love and admire them for how much they've supported me in my spider journey.
Yeah. And I was actually supposed to head out there right before COVID. I had plans to head out to LA and a couple other spots around there. And we were going to go out into the desert and, look for tarantulas and do some cool stuff like that. And I guess we were planning on doing that in the early spring, and then that's pretty much when everything got shut down for COVID, and I just haven't really got a chance to go back out anywhere since then. But it's definitely on my list.
Might be the sign that you need it. It's time to come to California.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm tentatively planning late summer or early fall because I'm also going to go to Houston, visit Houston Frogs. They've got they just opened up a new facility there, and so I was like, well, I'm down there, and I need to go to. Where are they? Right outside Tucson, Sky Island Adventures. Are you familiar with that?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I head out there, and he offered to let me stay in his bed bug and breakfast thing for a couple of days. So you go out, he picks you up from the airport and takes you out there, and he's got like a little guest house, and you stay there and makes you breakfast, and then takes you out into the desert and looking for tarantulas and all kinds of insects and reptiles and stuff like that.
I've never been to a reptile show, so I just watch them vicariously through your videos or Kat's videos. I don't know if I trust me. I think I might have to go with a friend and give him my phone and my wallet, because now your phone is your wallet, and I would be the sneaky one that would be like, no, I'll just have my phone, but you could have the wallet, and I'd be like Apple paying stuff. Because everyone kept saying, wait till a reptile expo comes to town if you want to get geckos, whatever, and there just wasn't one that was nearby. So it was like, okay, great. What am I going to do? But that seems like a really fun experience. Also, here's the question you probably get asked all the time. You have so many spiders. You talk about egg sacs. Are you ever going to get into the spider selling game?
No, that
is not for you.
Yeah, initially that was kind of my plan. I was like, if I get a good following, then it would be conducive to start a business and use it to cross promotion and stuff like that. But then I started getting to know a lot of these people, like Nate and Tanya from Fear Not Tarantulas, and there's a lot of them out there. And I see how much work and effort goes into that, and it's like I just don't have the time for that kind of commitment. I mean, when you think a sling, an egg sac can produce couple hundred or a couple thousand spiderlings, and until you sell them, you're responsible for feeding 1,000 spiderlings every couple of days. Like that's a lot of responsibility and a lot of work. And and then just the shipping and that nightmare of like trying to pack them up safely and researching the weather between where you are and whatever the FedEx hub is in that person's house to make sure you've got the right heat or cool packs in there. And I mean, it's a lot of work and a lot of effort. And I kind of feel like the people that are doing that, they're experts at that. Like they don't need more competition. And
so
I would rather support them.
What happens with your spiders who do pair and you get an egg sac? How have you been rehoming those?
Well, I don't do a whole lot of, but when I have, or like some scorpions and stuff I have are parthenogenic, so they'll just produce babies on their own. And in those situations, I usually just sell them wholesale to a dealer. I'll just be like, yeah, I'll just send them all to you in one shipment, and then you can handle parsing them out to people. That's usually, smart. Occasionally, if I do like a meetup or something like that, and I've got a whole bunch of isopods or scorpions or something, I'll bring them with me and like sell them for $10 or something like that. Something really
wait a minute. Nate did not tell me this, and Nate was recently I had an enclosure, and he was like, "Ooh, that'd be perfect for a scorpion." And I was like, "I don't know about that." You're telling me scorpions are parthenogenetic, and I could just have one scorpion and then they could have more, or just a specific
not all of them. Yeah, just there's a few specific species, like the Titimus species, Brazilian scorpions. They'll do that. Okay. Your death stalker scorpion, usually they're the more hot ones, the ones that you don't want to keep as a beginner will just produce babies. For the most part, scorpions, you got to breed them for that to happen.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah.
No.
But yeah, I mean, and that's one of the reasons some of those hot species are so popular is because people like the fact they don't have to breed them and they'll just produce more, which is
Right.
always interesting. But yeah,
I think I think that's the line for me as of today. As of
yeah,
today, I think scorpions are the line. I saw one. I was thinking about it, and he was like, "Do you want it?" I was like, "I don't think I do." And I
yeah,
hadn't really said no before to anything. I feel like that's my line. Although like there are, I think if I had a house, it would be really different. I think I would have what I've wanted, which was snakes. I started watching Snake Discovery like everyone else. Um,
hmm
and obviously Adam's Wicked Reptiles, Wiccan's Wicked Reptiles. That's hard to say. So I really do want like a ball python or some of this, but I just at this point I'm like, I think right now for my lifestyle, this is the max that I can handle, and that's a conversation you share in a lot of your videos as well, making sure that you stay within the realm of making sure everything can get the optimal care with the amount of
yeah.
time you have. And I've tested the theory because it's been when I've been in town and when I haven't been in town. And so now I have a system going where everything is, I have sitters for this, or I have a person that feels more comfortable with this. And it's been pretty easy to kind of make that happen without complete disrupting my life or neglecting the animals.
Yeah, very cool. Like while you're talking about that, you mentioned before we started recording, you were doing a Judd Apatow movie. Is that?
Yes. So the trailer just dropped. It's called Bros. It is the first gay rom-com, basically. So think Bridesmaids, think any of those kind of movies that he's ever produced. It's the same vibe that just happens to center around a gay couple, and the entire cast is LGBT, which is great because it's never happened. But most importantly, he flipped the script. So for a long time in Hollywood, there was a lot of bias. If you were out, there were certain roles that were for you, generally stereotypical gay or whatever. And if you even could convincingly play a straight person, there was hesitation about hiring you. And this movie completely got rid of all of that. They just hired people who just slayed the role regardless of how they identify or who they choose to love. And it's Billy Eichner co-wrote it with the director Nicholas Stoller, who wrote Forgetting Sarah Marshall and Get Him to the Greek and directed those. And this is my first lead in a major motion picture, and I play a broy hunter gamer type guy. And I think people were shocked to hear it. And I'm like, you do understand I had to go to high school in the 90s, right? Like there was years of practicing for this part, just from a pure safety issue back then. And so to be in this cast of like something that's momentous, I got to be in the first all out gay cast with Queer Eye in television history, and now the first all LGBTQ film for a major studio to make, was massive. And it's September 30th. We actually replaced Tom Cruise. He had a big box office. Mission Impossible was supposed to be September 30th. That moved. We took that weekend. And generally speaking, there's like weekends that are like hotspot weekends for big movies. It's already in a bunch of must-see lists. And there's a trailer. I think it's a not safe for work trailer because it is, again, very bridesmaids. And it's, you know how Bridesmaids open with that comedic sex scene. There's a lot of those kind of funny moments. It doesn't take itself too seriously, but it's also thought-provoking and funny and touching. And yeah, I loved doing it. It was a shock. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I've been doing this, acting professionally since 1997. My first job was in Rent on Broadway, and then Queer Eye kind of introduced me to the world on this global platform, and it was so big. And I had, the cover of Vanity Fair or like a cover of Entertainment Weekly or doing Oprah, all these other things that seemed big. And then I left the show, and when I transitioned back to acting, there was a lot of, well, you were on a reality show, so there's no room for you. You just want to act. I'm like, wait, I have this whole pedigree of work before that didn't matter. And so it was a real struggle. So when I found out I booked this, I pulled over and I cried. And I'm not a very emotional person in that direction. And I understand the importance of it, but also like I was really thankful that, that Billy Eichner, Nick, and Judd Apatow saw the importance of the work. And they even pulled me aside and they're like, just, hundreds of guys read for this role, and within the first couple lines we're like, that's him and and I play like Billy's love interest, straight broy friend, and there's a great scene that we have in the movie. I'm in a bunch of scenes, but there's this really one kind of pivotal scene that I get to be a part of. And so it was a really cool experience. I'm excited for people to see it. And today the trailer just dropped. And the movie's called Bros. Yeah.
Definitely have to check. I've been a Judd Apatow fan since like Freaks and Geeks, I think.
Oh yeah.
You
get the vibe. It's exactly the vibe. It's really funny. It's a lot of recognizable faces. Amanda Bierce, who is the neighbor on Married with Children, Marcy Darcy.
Yeah.
She plays my mom. I'm adopted, but so she's hilarious. Like we were just dying laughing between takes. Obviously, Billy's great. You'll just see a lot of people that you're like, oh, that person, oh, that person. It's a great show. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. It sounds like it'd be pretty cool.
It's gonna be fun.
So when you're filming movies like that, does it make it difficult, to be able to take care of your pets while you're busy on set, or do you ever bring any tarantulas or anything into your trailer and keep them there?
Now you're giving me ideas. No. So what I've done in the past is I've made videos a la Richard style, a la Tarantula Collective, that are very easy to follow. And then what I have people do is, first of all, when you're working on a project like that, you're being paid. So it's only fair. I wouldn't ask a friend to do it for free. So someone has a financial incentive to take good care of the animals. And then what I do is basically like I have them do it with me. So if it's feeding day, I will have them do all the feedings that are necessary on a feeding day with me just supervising and not saying anything, and just we can and it usually goes like a dream and easy. Sometimes it's small things that get forgotten about, like they'll forget to feed the crickets or the dubia roaches, right? So like small things like that. But then I just fix that by putting neon sign. Every single enclosure has a postcard care sheet underneath it poking out. So if you ever in question, and it's almost like a sign out form, last fed, last molted, it's all on there. And I'm super religious about that. Thankfully, you just partnered with that great app, so Arachnophiles. So now I don't have to use that, but it's been really helpful. Like I haven't brought anything with me. My dog will come if it's more than 2 weeks. But even then, like it depends, because I have to like make sure that also I have a friend who has a house and she's like, I have 2 dogs already. It's better for him to be playing all day than to be in a hotel room all day. So there's small stuff I try to consider. But yeah, if I had I remember Hilary Swank had like a parrot, a bunny, and a dog. I could be mistaken about the parrot, but it was definitely a bunny, a dog, and she would bring them in her trailer on set, and she would travel with them because she could and she wanted to, and because she was an Oscar award-winning actress, and why not? Like really, why not? It's a pretty big trailer when you're that level. And so like I feel like there shouldn't be a distinction between the care we have for a dog versus the care. I mean, you shouldn't disrespect how attached someone is or how much they love their spider because it's something you fear. Right. Like there's some things I think about all the time. I live in a building that there is an off-leash pit bull in the courtyard all the time. Docile, like sweet. I'm using tarantula terms. She's so sweet. She's friendly. But I've had delivery people not want to come in and drop off packages because she's there. And then we also have like a lot of wasps, kind of their little, like a hornet's nest or whatever. Like we have those like on the sides of buildings, and I'm like,
I thought you were talking about white Anglo-Saxons.
Oh no, Richard! Get me in trouble.
A bunch of wasps in my building.
I mean, I probably do, but I very much adore them. No, so I was like, I'm like, I already live in a building that's got things that are scary. I think I have things in my care that are perceived scary, but I'm keeping them in the safest way possible. And like you said, I'm really mindful of the smaller spiders that are in like at the moment, like a small tarantula crib. I know eventually they're going to be in a large tarantula crib. So I had to I just got a new shelving unit. I think we were talking about it. And I had to mentally plan and measure that what I have now, that everything will fit on there neatly and safely and easy to access in a couple of years.
Cool. Yeah. I've always wondered about that because, I've worked in town for a friend, or I've done this full time. So I've always really, I haven't had an issue with having a whole lot of pets. and having to leave and not be able to take care of them for, I go away for a weekend or something like that. And, tarantulas are fine for, 5, 6, 7 days, but I've been wanting to go down to like Costa Rica and Brazil and places like that and actually get out in the jungle and do some filming. And that's been like my biggest kind of deterrent recently. It's like, well, who am I going to get to take care of the animals while I'm gone? Like
that's the TV show. The TV show is I'm left alone in your tarantula room only with YouTube files to learn from. And then we pan to you in the jungle FaceTiming me to see how I'm doing. Sold. It's a comedy. We'll get Jed on the line. We'll see if he'll make it.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I actually had a guy reach out to me from Pittsburgh and was one like offered to do an internship because he needed a college credit. It was like, I'll feed all your tarantulas for you, pretty much do all the labor. And I was like, that would be cool, but like I just kind of feel bad not paying somebody to do work.
Listen, a little secret between me and you. I literally told Nate the same thing. I'm literally like, do you guys need, you need feed? I will feed. I was like, the best way to describe it is for some of us, it's our dream to kind of like, be around this many animals and just observe them. And part of the fun of care of these animals is the husbandry. I don't know how to describe it other than saying it's a great hobby and our pastime. So let's say someone likes to go play tennis. This is my version of that. And so like, when I have to do it, sometimes it does feel like a little bit like a chore if I don't want to do it that day. But somehow, like helping someone else do it feels like a fun activity. Like I would pay them to be like, y'all need some help, I don't know. People are really into that. I mean, I kind of understand where that kid's mind was at. I do.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I talk to people, like, I don't like name drop, but there's a lot of, especially reptile guys that have a huge collection that they kind of turn into a zoo and people pay admission to get into it. And somebody was suggesting like you should move them out of your basement and like rent a commercial space and then like charge $5 for people to come into the tarantula zoo. I was like, yeah,
where's my wallet? That might be fun. I have my wallet right here, Richard. I be like, yeah, listen, yeah. I think here's what's great about that is that you wouldn't just get people traveling in from all over the country or probably in your case all over the world since YouTube's international. You would get a lot of people who locally nearby who see reptiles come to their local town and they look at the tarantula stuff, but they keep on walking, keep on moving, or if a spider gets into the home, they instantly kill it. I think something about the exposure to the animals would be great for people. And also I think it could probably likely be the same space that you shoot content at, So, yeah, but then I think you'd still fill up your basement.
Yeah.
You still would.
Talked about a lot was like, I mean, even just like getting like a retail space or some commercial or even a loft or an apartment, somewhere to keep everything. So I had like a separate place to film. And
how do landlords feel about that?
Yeah, that was, I think I've talked about that before in one of the podcasts. I'd actually, there was like, they had turned this nail factory into these really cool loft apartments. And I reached out to them because they had a pet policy that you can only have like 2 dogs or no more than 3 cats. And I was like, oh, they're open to pets. And I was going to rent a loft and just set the studio in there and told them that I was moving in tarantulas and scorpions. And they changed their pet policy. No spiders, reptiles or snakes. I was like, okay, I can take a hint.
It's interesting to me because I think that my dog could do far more damage to this apartment than anything else.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Lifting a leg on some exposed wood or so, it's like there's like stuff, there's more stuff that I think a dog or cat could get into. But that's my little humble opinion there. But also like I'm in an apartment. It's like when I first moved here, I didn't have a license because I was from New York and I got put up at a hotel not far from here. And I literally walked around when I knew I wanted to live here. Queer had just finished. I was on a popular TV show here. I was here for 3 months and I was like, I'm going to move here. I don't need to be in New York. And I just walked to the first for rent sign and this is where I live. And so there's something called rent control here where basically they can't raise your rent, but by 3% every year. So I'm literally paying what I pay for this 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom. I could never get not even a 1-bedroom for what I pay. So I'm kind of holding on to this as my little actor crash pad, saving so that I can buy in the next couple of years. And then I don't have to worry about that, because I think one of the things that I really want to do is make the animal room so self-sustainable not self-sustainable, but user-friendly so that when people come in and if I do have someone who is new to this that it's so easy to feed. Like I've got the cricket game down to a science. I know how to get the crickets out of the thing. I know how to get them to not escape. Like I feel like I've been a little scientist and all this. I'm a little detective. And just to make it user friendly for friends who and I was gone, most of the fall, but thank God no longer than 2.5 weeks. So there was 2.5 weeks room for error, and then I would come back. And then 2.5 weeks, so it was like I got to sort of reset things and give notes, and so people got to learn. Yeah, I'm curious what other people do. If anyone out there has tips on what they do, please share them with me or us, because I'm so curious.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot will depend on how large of an area that you're living in. As far as like who would be available to kind of help you out and stuff.
And then also like, why is there a service? Like, I feel like you can get a dog walker, but there aren't really like reptile babysitters, or like you could drop them off at a pet store. That's something you could do. But then what am I going to do with like, hi, I have all these a rolling luggage of spiders? No.
Yeah. There's in Houston, there's a business I've collaborated with a few times called Houston Frogs. It's who sent me my dart frogs. And they have a service where if you go on vacation, like up to 2 weeks, you can just drop your frogs off and they'll take care of feeding them and maintaining the humidity and stuff at no charge. Like you buy your frogs from them, that's just part of the deal, which I thought was, I don't live in Houston, Texas, so I wouldn't be able to take advantage of it. But I was like, more places should do stuff like that. That would be really cool. But when it comes to tarantulas, that would be difficult.
Yeah, but I also feel like there's got to be some tarantula hobbyists out there who are in college looking to make some extra money, and people like me would really.
I do want to thank the sponsors of today's show. And our first sponsor today is no stranger to the podcast, and that is our friends over at Arthropod Ambassadors. Now, their aim is to support others interested in bugs and the well-being of arthropods around the world. They're working on spreading education with resin art, the mobile bug zoo, and informational YouTube videos, as well as a recent new line of stickers and pins. From compost-enhancing roly-polies to alien-like top predator mantises, arthropods come in all shapes and sizes and are waiting to teach us more about the Earth that we all have in common. So if you're looking for a mantis, jumping spiders, isopods, roaches, or assassin bugs, head on over to arthropodambassadors.com and check out what species they have available. You can also find very helpful care videos for your pet mantis, scorpions, vingaroons, isopods, tarantulas, and other arthropods on their YouTube channel, also called Arthropod Ambassadors. You can also follow them on Instagram and Facebook and stay up to date with any new content or species that they may have available in the future. So a huge thanks to Arthropod Ambassadors for sponsoring this podcast. And if you want to learn more about them, I'll link the podcast that we did together down below in the show notes.
No, but I just feel like this would be a great moneymaker for someone to babysit these sort of specialty animals. I'm training just everyday pedestrians and turning them onto your channel.
Nice.
One guy actually wants one. He's like, I want you to come with me to get my first tarantula. I was like,
that's awesome.
That's how it starts.
Yeah. I think it's really cool that you're starting to kind of, I was looking at your Facebook and some of the videos that you had posted and stuff like that, and the stuff that you're doing on Patreon. And even if you're not discussing tarantulas, on the forefront, they're still in the background, kind of like they are right now. You can see there's some enclosures back there. And I think it's kind of cool that someone, you have an Emmy like right next to a tarantula enclosure. I think I saw one of them. I was like, that is awesome. And I just think it's cool that somebody that, that kind of has your reach and your following and your experience is pro tarantula, I guess. I don't know if that's the right way to say it.
Yeah, I was very curious. You brought up so many topics about this, and I had no idea that the hobbyists were, under attack. I called, I wrote my little letter, and just learning about how the hobby and enthusiasts will be impacted by all the changes that are being proposed based on ignorance is tricky, because I'm just like, what will it take? I mean, you have got such great educators who can go in and have a very simple conversation, but it seems like the stigma around these kind of pets is really driving legislators to make poor choices about them.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it is just misunderstanding or just having no knowledge. And I've like got really irritated recently because I follow Joe Rogan on Instagram, and he's been posting pictures of spiders that he's found, or his dog hanging out next to a dead tarantula, and talking about how terrible tarantulas are and how scary spiders are. And he was complaining about people that keep snakes are psychos and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, you're the reason that we not him solely, but you know what I mean? It's like that kind of attitude is what is poisons the public against not just keepers, but like the animals themselves.
Joe Rogan calling people a psycho when he had people eat like, cow intestine and cow testicle. I mean, remember Fear Factor? So really, Joe? And also, let's be honest. Listen, I don't claim to know all people, and certainly, I don't represent all gay people. But he sounds like a man who might be a little scared of a snake. If you're going to be, you're crazy if you keep them. Why? Yeah. Why? Why am I crazy? Do you want to hold it? Oh, you don't want to? Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
I see you.
I mean,
listen,
lived in joking, California and in Texas. So, I mean, they're all around him, snakes and tarantulas and stuff. Well, I was actually, this is like 3 years ago. We were in LA because my wife has some family that lives out there, and her cousin was getting married. And it was like right outside Malibu. So we went out there for like the week and, take the kids to Disneyland and all that kind of fun stuff. And she and I would sneak out of the Airbnb, leave the kids with the grandparents, and we'd go hiking because that's kind of one of our favorite things. And we went to we went to Tarantula Hill just because I saw it on the map. Was like, oh, that's going to be cool. We'll check that out. But then there was like Scorpion Canyon or something along those lines. And we got lost because I don't know where I'm going in LA. I thought that I was going down the road that took us to the trailhead, and it actually brought us to this huge, heavily guarded, like gated community. And I was like, what? Where are we? And they're like, you need to turn that car around and get out of here. And then like we were telling her aunt about it. She's like, yeah, Joe Rogan lives up in there. A lot of celebrities. And I was like, so how can he be scared of spiders and snakes when he's essentially living in their habitat? That made no sense.
I think the best way to get over spiders, if you have anyone that is very fearful of spiders or just doesn't really, they kind of, they don't know how they feel about it. I think for me, it was really helpful to watch your videos because I think the human connection, I mean, without meaning to, you have this way of talking about the spiders that I can tell you favor. Or have some kind of emotional bond with, not just that they're pretty or beautiful or that you love their feeding response, but that you have a bond with. And I think when people kind of pick up on that, I think they're like, oh, well, maybe a spider isn't something to fear if I just understood it better. But all that watching, I will be honest, all that watching did not do me any good. It was really when I was up close and personal and I had to for work, had to handle the spider, and I wasn't going to say no to this job. And in the email to audition, they were like, seriously cannot be. And when I was on set, they were like, you're really not scared of this, right? Because we can't be like negotiating with you about like how long you hold it. Like we just got to get it done. So, I needed the job. So of course I had to be okay with it. And the minute I did it, it was like, now it's not even a thing, like I don't frequently handle my spiders. I'm not like, oh, I'm bored, I'm going to go pick up a spider. It's not my thing. But if I'm rehousing and it happens to get on my hand, I don't want to be the one that's like, oh, so I'm not, I'm thrilled for the couple seconds it's there. But I'm not paranoid about it. And I felt like also just feeding them and being around them, the fact that I could be this close to a spider and not, previously I would have been like, it's just not even a thing. When you're around them, you're like, oh, it's not as scary as I thought.
Right. I mean, that's something I learned studying meditation. It's like you can read every book about meditation and know the philosophy, but until you start practicing it, you don't really have enough. It's like swimming. You can read every single book, teaches you how to swim, but until you get into the water, you're not going to know how to swim. So like you can watch every video I've made, but until you actually have a tarantula, you're not going to really have that experience and understanding. And there's something, that's why I think reptile expos are so cool, because you can do all your research, know everything about these animals, and then you actually see them in person. And I don't know, like you kind of feel their vibe or their energy, or, it's just something, there's something magical and special about being in the presence of these animals, whether you take them home or not.
See, but that's the thing. If I go to a reptile expo that's out of town, then I can't take home the animal because I'd be on a plane, right? Like you can't just put a tarantula in your carry-on.
No, but almost every reptile expo I've been to, with the exception of the smaller ones, most of the large ones, like if you go to Tinley Park, the one that's outside Chicago, or the one in St. Louis, I think there's one in Arlington, Texas as well. they have they have booths there. So you buy some spiders or reptiles or whatever, and then you go to ship your reptiles booth, and they will package it up and FedEx. You pay them right there, and like they will schedule it so the day you get home, your animals will arrive in the mail.
Richard, I'm telling you right now, I will make this pledge here on the YouTubes. The next big show that you go to that has that, I'm gonna fly in. I'm gonna go one day, and I'm gonna go support y'all. But I'm gonna go buy a spider and try that, because I'm very curious about what it's like to experiencing it. But I want to go where I'll actually recognize some of the creators, so I'm not walking around like a crazy person. Yeah,
that would be a lot of fun. Yeah, I think. Yeah, we'll get Tarantula Cat and all kinds of people to come.
Gosh,
that'd be fun.
I know. Yeah. What are the next big ones that are coming around the Riverbend? Because I know Tinley just happened, right?
Tinley just happened. They just had the one in St. Louis. I'm usually they do it spring and fall. So usually Tinley is like end of October, beginning of November, right around Halloween. Okay. And I think the one in St. Louis is usually a month after or a month before. I'm not exactly sure.
The Halloween one would be great. I mean, I love the one that you did that was in the old like psychiatric hospital or whatever it was.
Oh yeah, it was an old state penitentiary.
State pen, yeah.
That
was a cool video.
Places, yeah, it was a lot of fun. It's just creepy that something like that is, like Charles Manson was trying to get into that prison. I mean, there's all kinds of crazy stuff. But yeah, it was a neat show, and they're doing it again. He just sent me an email sometime in July, so hopefully we'll have a good turnout, and it'll grow from there.
But there wasn't that many spiders, you said, right?
No, there was just one tarantula deer. But I guess since I put out that video, now because they moved to different cities around the state and in the area, and other tarantula dealers have jumped on because they were like, oh wow, there's a market for this. So they've gotten some more tarantula dealers that are joining that show, which is cool.
Brilliant.
It's like going to a zoo. You know what I mean? Like if you enjoy going to a zoo, this is more like a hands-on zoo. Like they're right there in front of you. They're not like 20 yards away behind glass. A lot of these animals you're right there. You can hold them. People that are breeding them know a lot about them. And they can tell you all about their care and where they come from, and you take them out of their enclosure and let you like handle them if they're a species that can be handled. And they got a lot of display animals too.
I've gone to this reptile store here in town, and sometimes I'll be, looking at the tarantulas, and then I'll be like, what can you tell me about this one? I've already looked it up. I already kind of know, but I'm just checking to see if they know. And they'll be like, they'll kind of tell you a little, oh, it's really just beautiful, and we just fed it, like really generic. And then I'll be like, okay, but like, and then I'll ask more specific questions, like, you really want to talk to Bob? He's our spider guy. And I'm like, you're literally going to sell me something without, I just, because I mean, when I had my first Carabiner versicolor was a sling that also died, and now I have a juvie that's thriving and doing great. But when I first got it, they kind of fudged some of the instructions, and then I watched your videos, but it was because it was a sling. It was just really hard to I don't know if it just died because it was a sling, or like if it was too moist. I mean, I tried to keep the humidity normal down, but then it was also but then you also have to make sure that the water dish is in the right place, and it's an arboreal thing, and it's a sling. It was a whole mess. So my opinion now is I'd rather just have now I just go to people who know me and my personality. I would be very curious to know what spider you would pick out for me to have in my care, and if I already have it.
Yeah. Well, first I just wanted to say that spiderlings, especially avicularia or really carabina, they're just really fragile to begin. You can do everything right, and sometimes just genetics, they're just not going to survive. Because if you think about how many of them would survive in the wild, they have 500 slings in there. The egg sac in the wild, some of them are going to get cannibalized. The stronger are going to eat the weak, so they will be even stronger, and then they'll become prey for other animals out there. So when you get a sling from that's captive bred, you can't always expect 100% of those spiderlings to survive to adulthood. Naturally they're just not designed to do that. So it's always disappointing. But I've talked to so many people that have done everything perfectly, and a sling, a Carabiner versicolor still died, and it's just unfortunate. But that's why some people buy 5 at a time. They're like, I'll get 5 of them. That way I know, at least a couple of them are gonna survive to adulthood.
I didn't learn that until after my pink toe and my Carabiner died, and I was like, okay, noted. Now I only want juveniles and larger.
And the sling thing the bulk sling thing can backfire, because what if all 5 of them thrive? Now you've got
Now
5
you have
adults.
no money for rent.
Yeah.
You're broke.
Yeah. But I mean, just from the conversations we've had so far, I mean, do you have a green bottle blue tarantula? A chromatopelma,
No, but I was literally shown one yesterday, and instead I got the Brachypelma amelia. But why do people freak out? There's so many pictures, GIFs, and memes about green bottle blues. Why? They're fast? Or what's the issue?
Well,
why do they have a bad rap?
They're the best tarantula, in my opinion, just because they're so beautiful. They stay out on display all the time. They they web up the enclosures so beautifully. I mean, they're just very, very gorgeous spiders. But for a New World tarantula, they're a little bolty, like they're feisty. Okay. Like they're not gonna bite you really. It's not something I would be worried about their defensive nature, but they can move really fast. So when you go to rehouse them, sometimes you got to be very mindful and careful because they'll take off. And sometimes you just open up the enclosure, they'll kind of spaz out a little bit, and just a lot quicker than you would think because they're so slow and meticulous the way they walk until they get startled, and then they're like lightning. But I think it's also they're big hair kickers. So if you're really sensitive to the urticating hairs, sometimes they can be a lot more apt to kick hairs than some other species.
I haven't seen hair kicking in person other than with a feisty spider that Nate deliberately showed me that was a hair kicker. Like literally just was like, here's this. And as he was talking about the spider, I think she knew and she was like, but no, I've never seen one of mine do that. I've been 100% a threat pose when like a prey item is dropped in. So I've seen that from one of the, but no. So, okay. So GBB, all right. Sorry. So I'm not going to be that scared of a GBB. It's really just the rehousing part that I need to be a little cautious.
Yeah. And I mean, if you get one as a spiderling or a juvenile, like that's my favorite part is just watching the transformation in color and pattern as it grows. Yeah. But if you start out young, you get pretty accustomed to how it's going to react. So you can almost anticipate, what they're going to do. Because, they're a little bolty and feisty, but they're also pretty predictable, So it's going to run that direction. And one thing I've learned, especially with my GBB and some of my Brachypelmas that are big hair kickers, is a lot of the times, like if it's on a table and you move your hand across the top of it, it's going to kick hairs because it's going to see that kind of darkness and assume it's a bird or some kind of predator, and it'll kick those hairs out. So when you're rehousing them or moving them around, if you can avoid kind of casting that shadow on the top of their head, a lot of times they're not going to kick hairs at you.
That's a good tip. That is a very good tip. Okay, so that one, give me one more. How about I tell you what I have?
Okay.
I have a Grammostola pulchra. I have a Grammostola pulchripes. I have Brachypelma hamori, Brachypelma amelia, Carabina versicolor, pink toe, Grammostola rosea, and a curly hair. I think I already said that. I think that's all the different kinds I have.
And you're trying to stick with just New World tarantulas? Or are you wanting to avoid Old World?
Yeah, I was just recently, I was trying to. He showed me this beautiful baboon and he was like, it's great. I mean, it's not for handling, but it's really beautiful. It probably won't do anything. And I was like, because anytime you mention the words defensive, I'm like, fast forward. This is not the one. Those fields are top 5, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, let's see what number 2 is. Let's see what number 2 is. Not doing number 1.
Yeah. Yeah, and some of that is
but it's an early keeper. It's early keeper vibes. I have a feeling we had this conversation next year. We're going to be having a different conversation.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's some really cool, but yeah, if you want to stick to the New Worlds, I mean, do you like arboreal or terrestrial more? Do you have a preference?
I don't mind
there?
Arboreal. No, because I have the pink toe I have right now, and just like a large Zilla because it's a juvenile. I think. I have to this self-made kind of 5-gallon sideways or 10-gallon sideways that you did. I need to watch that video. Did you actually make a video about arboreal enclosures DIY?
I don't know if I actually did that. I talked about it in a video. So many people were asking about it, but I don't think I actually ever made the video.
Comment below if you'd like to see this video, because he's about to suggest an arboreal species. No, like I think there was like some of the avicularia like that are like purple or like the I don't know. I just don't want to die.
Yeah.
And listen, I don't think that anything. I'm joking, but I mean, I also just, I think the speed and the defensive at this station in keeping where I'm like under a year in keeping, I think it still freaks me out a little bit. So I want to get comfortable with these. However, I find that even when mine threat, I'm not ever scared. The only time I really got jumpy was I had ordered a versicolor and it came in the mail. And I had already unboxed perfectly with tongs and rolled it out of the Brachypelma homori. Fine, easy breezy. It was like, hi, human. I'm going to go in this little hide. I'll stick it over here. See ya. Then it was time for the versicolor. So I open up the tubing. I pull out the paper towel. It's paper towels in the enclosure. So I'm like operating like we're playing Operation with my little tweezers slowly.
Sure.
Gently, ever so gently, just making really slow movements, and then boom, and I like dropped the tweezers. They fell out of the enclosure, and I closed it, and it was in there with a paper towel for like a minute. But it was the speed, and then I was laughing at myself like an idiot, like for what? It was a versicolor, like nothing's gonna happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I was going to suggest the Venezuelan earth tiger, like the Salmopius or Minya, because it's a black and orange tarantula. It's arboreal. They're gorgeous, but they're pretty fast, And so maybe but maybe instead, this is kind of the same answer, but different. The Dolichothele diamantinensis, which is the Brazilian blue dwarf tarantula. They're blue and red and beautiful. They're kind of semi-arboreal, so you kind of get the best of both worlds. As spiderlings, they're extremely fast, but that you only really have to deal with that in the initial, like when you're opening it up and put it in its enclosure. And if you do like what you mentioned, like put the tube in there and unroll it inside its enclosure, it's you're not going to have a problem. But yeah, they're really fast as slings, but as they get older, they're not. And mine's never given me a threat pose. I think one of the spiderlings gave me a threat pose once, but it's like, what are you going to do? You're not even more than like buddy. A centimeter. Look real tough there, dude.
I feel like I chewed your ear off, and then you have another interview.
Yeah, I do coming up. So we probably should.
Coming up. So in an hour. I don't know what time. I don't know what time you're at.
Oh, it's 2:45 here, and so I got till 3:30, and everything's already set up. But we are approaching the 2-hour mark for recording. So
marathon here.
People start getting a little. They start turning off after a couple hours.
Yes, this is true.
Yeah. It's funny because like when I started doing these podcasts, I was trying to keep them at an hour and was getting so many complaints. People were like, well, I listen to them while I'm working out or while I'm driving to work, and they're not long enough. And I was like, we'll go longer. And then I put some out that were like 3 or 4 hours, and people are like, all right, this is way too long. It's taking me like a week. I got to break it up into sections. So 2 hours seems to be the sweet spot.
2 hours is great. It is, and it's a natural, organic conversation. That is definitely the amount of time. Okay, so the Brazilian dwarf beauty, is that what you said? No,
Brazilian blue dwarf beauty. Yeah,
Brazilian blue dwarf beauty. Okay,
definitely check them out. They're very cool. I mean, they don't get really big either, but they're so colorful and beautiful. I really like even as spiderlings. Yeah. So you've got we talked about Fantasy Islands coming out, the Judd Apatow movie Bros. Was that correct?
Yes, Bros.
And then you said you've got something on Amazon. Bosch Legacy.
Bosch Legacy. It's a cop drama. It's streaming now. It's now. I think it aired on Amazon Prime before, but now Amazon Prime is like. It's got different subsects under it. So it's Prime Video. It's on a streaming platform called Freevee. It's free to watch.
Yeah.
If you like the Bosch series, it's like typical cop drama. If you like Law and Order, not Law and Order, but if you like any of these cop dramas, it's very that. And this is the spinoff. So it's sort of picking up on where the series ended. This picks up on where it's going now, because it's sort of a transitional thing between the lead officer Bosch is now leaving the force and going into the FBI, and his daughter is going into the academy. And I play a training officer in the academy, and it was this was one of those jobs where it was a smaller role. It was a co-star, so that means like under 5 lines, but it had a great like shootout scene, and so we took it because they just got picked up for season 2, which I knew they would. And so the hopes is that once you're part of the the precinct that you'll be utilized more. And season 2 is notorious for expanding on characters. So that's the hope. But it was just also as a diehard fan. So like there's some shows where I'm like, I will play a tree. I just want to be on it. Here's looking at you, Bridgerton. But yeah.
Oh my gosh. My wife. Well, I can't say my wife loves. I watch it with her. I love that show as well.
Yeah, it was super fun. I just actually interviewed 2 cast members from Bridgerton on. Actually, didn't interview them, but they were on the same episode. I did Daily Pop on Monday, which is like a entertainment news show, and they were the guests, so I got a picture with them, but they weren't in my segment when I was hosting. But it was they are that to be in that bubble of those kids who literally had their lives changed overnight must be really fascinating. You do 10 episodes of a series on Netflix, and then it blows up, and the world takes you by storm. And I remember what that's like, and it's daunting. And I kind of like what the life I have now, which is I'm the guy from that show. I always say, because I pop up on things. And like, were you the murderer on Bones, or were you on Grace and Frankie? Were you on Grey's Anatomy? I'm thank God I've had a career where I'm always working on different stuff. I really would like to be on one show and stay on that. But
would you just say you were on Grace and Frankie?
Yeah, there was an episode where
my wife is binging that right now.
Oh, she definitely saw me. I played Jojo, the nurse, when one of the boys has a heart attack and he ends up in the hospital. One of the 2 older guys in the show. I am their nurse who's out, and now they're newly out, and they're trying to figure out what their life looks like as seniors and making up for lost time. And I'm like inviting them to drag bingo and all this stuff. And they're like, one of them's like, that's not for me. And the other one's like, well, I want to try this stuff. And they have that discussion of like, all right, well, who are we going to be? We were both, and anyways, it was a fun moment. And I had done a sitcom on ABC with Lily Tomlin and Reba for a full year. It ran for 1 season. It was called Malibu Country, and you could stream it on Hulu. It's called Malibu Country. And so most of my scenes were with Lily, and we were always like the troublemakers. She was a grandma who was basically cutting a new lease on life in Malibu. That was sort of her journey, and I was sort of like her partner in crime. So when I auditioned for Grace and Frankie, I saw she was a producer. So I text her and I'm like, hey, Lily, I'm going in for your show, and congratulations, I'm loving it. And she was like, 2 days later, Jay, darling, so good to hear from you. Good luck. And I was like, oh. But I went in and auditioned and booked it on my own merit. And then when I got to set, she brought me around like I was her grandson or something. It was like, this is my Jay. And that was just amazing, like meeting Jane Fonda and, having these scenes with, these great guys and just icons and that was an interesting thing to work on a show like Grace and Frankie, where, the top 4 people build on it have been working in Hollywood forever and no ego. Kind, generous with their time, and treated the guest stars like they were part of the family. And then you go on a show where someone's new and they're so full of this new energy and they think they're a star and they don't like engage with guest stars, or they ignore you because there's going to be another one of you next week. And and it was like the professionalism and how you treat people. I'll never forget that, because it was always stuck with me.
Yeah, I was She watches ahead of me all the time, but I was when we first started watching it. It was Sam Waterston. He's like I think I'm saying his name right. The guy from Law and Order.
Yes.
Yeah, and I was having a hard time like buying his character because I had binge watched Law and Order for so long.
Yeah,
I was just like. That's all I could see, and so I struggled for like the first 5 or 6 episodes, but then he sold me on the role. So
he was a slow burn for me too. I'm not gonna lie. And Martin Sheen is the one who has the stroke or has some heart condition, and then Saul or what's his name? He's the one who wants to like live it up. And Martin Sheen, of course, is like, no, that's not for us. But anyway, it was, I agree. And I think I think going back to Bros, I think that was what was so great about this role. Like I remember my first day on set, I have this big scene with my brother and one of the writers who I kind of knew socially, or I think he's like a producer, whatever. He came up to me and was like, people are going to need to look at the credits to know it was you. Like, you're unrecognizable in this role, which I love because that is literally my job. But when I share stuff with people, they're like, what? You did what? And I'm like, I did The Rookie on ABC. I think 2020 it aired, and I play this like guy who's it's essentially kind of like a murderer, kind of, and I think that was kind of a journey for some people because it wasn't the cheerful, joyful Jay they were used to. But I think they were surprised at how part of my job is to embody that for the moment and sell you on that fantasy.
It's very cool. I almost made it to Hollywood. I guess it was probably about 18 months ago. I had a movie producer reach out to me through email. We ended up talking on the phone a lot, and they were filming some movie that had tarantulas in it, and there was like specific species he was looking for, and he had reached out to Bugs in Cyberspace, who at the time was in Seattle or somewhere like that, Portland. I think it was in Portland, and that's where they were filming. And he was like, "No, I'm not there anymore. I'm in Arizona." But he gave him my email, and I talked to this guy like 2 or 3 times about like how to film him and what species I had available and what lenses and cameras I would use and what footage I may already have that they could use. And there was one scene where the tarantula was walking across the desk. He's like, "We really need to film that on set. Can you bring him by?" And I was like, "Sure. When are you wanting to do that?" And he was like, "Well, on Tuesday." And I was like, "Okay, well, I don't think I can get a flight out there in that time, let alone bring the tarantula with me." He's like, "Wait, where are you?" I was like, I'm right outside Pittsburgh." He was like, "Yeah, that's not going to work." And I was like, "No, I was so close."
Richard, I guarantee you there is no one I will think of sooner than you for this kind of thing. I think, look, you have, because here's what you have in your favor. You already have the showmanship down. You have the tech part. You part of being a great entertainer is understanding what your contributions, how they fit into the bigger picture. But you now are fully responsible for creating the entire picture from the behind the scenes to in front of camera. So you come into these kind of projects with an advantage. And I'm so fascinated with it. I'm determined to, I've created shows that have made it to television. I've executive produced shows, and I'm so determined to make something in this space happen. So we'll be talking.
That would be awesome.
I think it'd be great. I think the human spider connection is underappreciated, but also how we can talk about, the fears people have and how that is a broader issue. Spiders, it could just be one variation of like challenging people to lean into the things that frighten you, because there's actually strength and courage and empathy and compassion, and your world gets bigger when you're less scared of things that you have no reason to be scared of.
Yeah, and I think that couldn't happen at a more important time than now with all the Lacey Act regulations and all the villain. What's the word? Making villains. Vilification. That's it. Yeah. I think I was trying to add an extra in there, but vilifying the pet hobby and stuff like that. I think getting some positive images out there would be really good, because that would be awesome. I would love to do something like that, and then I get frustrated when I see things like on History Channel or Discovery or something like that, where they're these guys are going out into nature and they're doing a lot of like nature documentary kind of stuff, but then they come to tarantulas and they just exaggerate. Like I was watching one there in caves of like a vicularia, a pink-toed tarantula's on the guy's back, and they're talking about how it's the most venomous, dangerous spider in the jungle, and I'm like, that thing is less venomous than a bee. Like, why are you making it out to, like, I know you're doing it for the dramatic feel, but it's like they're at the detriment of the tarantula itself and the hobby in general. And I just don't think most people know, are even aware of that exists, and
the
they're just doing it for
nature,
ratings or whatever.
Yeah, ratings and the clickbait vibe of making some spiders specifically scarier than others. The fact that little Brachypelma homori that was super docile with me, and that she just magically was like fine for 20 takes of this stranger offering a hand, and I was like, how do you really want this spider? Because I will take this back. I was like Googling, can you bring spiders from Puerto Rico? Also, there's like some kind of Puerto Rican, I know, I was like, you can't. There is a Puerto Rican avicularia, I think.
Yeah, Puerto Rican pink toe.
Yeah, but you said it was, I think you covered it. Didn't you cover it? I think
vicularia is one of them, yeah.
But it's like, I think there's something like bad about it. I think it was like
a Puerto Rican tarantula.
If it's Puerto Rican, they would track that it's spicy.
Yeah, I can't think of one. I know that there are a few in South America that can be a little venomous, but I feel like Puerto Rico only has the avicularia. But I know as soon as I say that, somebody like Martin's going to be like, no, there's actually these species too. I know Cuba some of the Central America, they got some that are a little hot, but
Because I'm Puerto Rican, I wanted something from Puerto Rico, but then I was also wanting something like user friendly.
That's actually the first place I was going to go to film like a nature documentary style. It's because I had some people had reached out to me from there, and I don't think you need a passport, or it's not as difficult to get to Puerto Rico as it is some other countries.
It's part of the U.S. It is literally part of the U.S. And I went to shoot this, and we went to this rainforest called El Yunque, which I think means the forest, but again, bad Spanish. So I went, and it was like, first of all, when we were shooting the show, 99% of it was outside. How it looks on the show, which is bright and vibrant. I thought they color corrected it, and I'm sure they do adjust the color for television to make it brighter, but I've never been anywhere where the colors and the greens were so vibrant. It was next level. They definitely have tarantulas, because my cousin texted me a picture of this massive one, and he's like, because I know you like them, I'm gonna, brush it away with a broom. And he did. He's like, but that people do kill them there all the time. And I posted a picture. I don't know if it was on your Facebook, but it was on one of the Facebook posts. And I said, can someone tell me what this is? It's in Puerto Rico. And they gave me the name of it. And I can't remember now, but it was big and black. And they said, oh, it's a male. And he's probably just looking for a little,
Yeah.
Aren't we all?
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, Jay, thank you so much for coming on and talking and sharing your experience and stuff like that. And just being a positive, kind of ambassador for exotic pets, out there in Hollywood. And I just think it's very cool of you, man. I appreciate it.
I am trying. And if you're out there watching, please connect with me on socials. I need more spider and exotic pet friends, because I feel like one of the biggest things is I recognize I'm new, and I recognize that there's a lot to learn, but there's something beautiful about constantly putting yourself in the space of always learning, eating the meat, spitting out the bones. If it doesn't apply, let it fly. Kind of learning how to get as much information about the care of these great creatures as possible. And also, I just think it's fascinating to look at other people's pictures and their enclosures and just kind of see their care. And I love a good feeding video. And and I would love a DIY video on how you make your arboreal enclosures, because I was like, where do I get an arboreal enclosure that big? I guess I'm just going to get like a zoom ed, like a front opening or something.
Yeah. I think the reason I didn't, and first off, anybody watching on YouTube, all Jay's social media, I've got it scrolling across the bottom of the screen there. But I'll also have links in the description or in the show notes and stuff like that, so people can check you out. But I had made those videos, and I had I've made a lot of those, retrofitting 10-gallon aquariums to arboreal enclosures. And about the time that I had started making videos and releasing them, there were a few companies that came out that already had, they just had pre-made acrylic sheets that were already cut and had I think gecko, I want to say.
So I don't know that. So you're saying
gecko habitats or something like that.
10-gallon glass enclosure that I don't have to, the screen that it comes with, there is a company that makes acrylic pre-made lids for that?
Like you just go to the pet store, when they're having $1 per gallon sale, and just buy the aquarium with no lid or anything, just the glass aquarium, and then you put it on its end. And I wish I could remember that it has something to do with geckos. It's like gecko habitats or gecko supreme or something like that.
Okay.
And you just tell them, I've got this size of enclosure. And usually on the aquarium, it'll have the dimensions, so you can even just kind of double check it. But they've got pre-made, pre-cut. They've got hinges, they got the ventilations, all that kind of stuff. So they ship it to you, and then you just get a little bit of I think they even send you the aquarium silicone. You just kind of put it around the lip and then shove that in there and let it cure for a couple of days, and then it's all sealed up and ready to go. And it's when I was making those, that wasn't available. So I'm going to the hardware store and buying big sheets of acrylic and cutting and measuring and all that, getting acrylic. I mean, it was a pain getting the latches and the hinges and all that and get them to stick. And then I saw, you can just, for the same amount of money. That's what was the most frustrating, because plexiglass can be expensive, and then you have to buy all the tools to cut it and everything correctly so you don't damage it. It's the amount of money somebody would have to spend to make their own, they could just buy one from this company. So
all right, well, good to know.
Yeah. But
Richard, thank you for your time. Thank you for all you do, and thank you for making spiders less scary. This is a huge honor to be here. I'm a member of your Patreon. I fly to your videos, and I try to tell as many people as possible. And mark my words, I really think we need to make this show, this Queer Eye meets Tarantula Collective moment, go house to house across the nation and help people with their exotic pets.
That would be awesome. I would love that.
Let's
I
just do
think
it.
people would enjoy that. That would be
Get
very
Andy
cool.
Cohen on the line. Maybe one of the housewives wants the tarantula.
Very cool. And I do got to say before I let you go, I've had a lot of people on my podcast, and this is the first time my wife has been like impressed. She was like,
"Oh my
"No way."
god!" Oh, well, give my love to your wife and thank
I
her
will.
for loaning you out to these videos. But I'm sure this is a lot of time away from her. But this is a really sweet thing because also too, like I said, I'm always so concerned. I'm like, no one's gonna date me with these spiders. So she's living proof it's possible.
Definitely. All right, Jay. Well, thank you so much, and everybody check out the show notes for all the links to Jay's social media and follow him and like and watch the videos and it's all good stuff. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to these, especially that movie, that Judd Apatow movie. I'm definitely gonna have to go see that in the theaters.
It's the gay bridesmaids vibe. You're gonna have a great time. It's Judd Apatow. You're gonna get the humor and Billy Eichner. And I think I may surprise you. He's gonna be a different kind of this guy a little bit more than you're used to seeing.
I dig it. All right. Well, thank you so much, man. And thank you everybody for listening. We will we'll see you in the next podcast. Goodbye. And that is a wrap.
Thank you so much.
That was fun.
Anytime. So yeah, so I really want to figure out how to like. I'm gonna talk to him. I'm at Gersh, which is like the largest agency for TV, and my non-scripted agent does like all original content programming. I wonder. I'm gonna ask her to put feelers out to like any of the channels who do like nature, like what is Animal Planet up to? What is Nat Geo doing? And would they be open to this? Because they periodically reach out because I took meetings with them. I hosted the show on Animal Planet. It was like Project Runway format, but for dog groomers. So I was the host and they were vying to be America's Next Top Dog Groomer. So every couple of years they check in to see where I'm at and where I'm, what I'm open to doing with them. But I haven't seen outside of Tanked anything that is about pet care that isn't dog or cat related. Yeah. So I'd be curious.
Rather than like training, there was that Caesar Milan, but I mean that was more training than care.
And it's all dog
what was the other guys? Like, there was a guy who did cats, something about Cats from Hell or something. That guy was funny.
Yeah,
I don't remember his name though. But
oh shoot, I didn't do the Odyssey thing.
The Odyssey. Oh, don't worry about it. I got it.
Oh, okay. Oh my gosh. I just realized, sorry for the viewer. We're recording this visually and then I was supposed to record audibly and I just saw the app and I was like, oh my gosh.